Today, a new series begins at Union Berlin. And at this overachieving club, our aim is to continue the rise of the Iron Ones, covering a season every single episode until we win the Champions League. They've been down as far as the 5th tier in Germany in the regional leagues in the 2005-06 season, and after a decade in Bundesliga 2, were promoted a few seasons ago and have impressed ever since, finishing in 5th place last season on the final day. And as you can see by their trophy cabinet, they have never won a Bundesliga or a DFB Pokal, which, as I've mentioned in the past, is my all-time favourite looking trophy. Financially, we start with the second lowest turnover in the league, and our bank balance reflects that also. And we have a remaining debt of £43.5 million. Thankfully though, there is money in the Bundesliga, especially if we finished in the top half. Ball culture is to sign players from domestic rivals and to sign players under the age of 23, with the current season target being competitive in both the Europa League and the DFB Pokal. Now I've messed around with the players we have on this 4-4-2 with 2 DMCs to fit our best players, and I'm going to try a fast-paced, cautious approach. I'm a big fan of their new signing Thorsby in midfield. His mental attributes are phenomenal and he is going to be a rock in there. The USA international Siebatcheu is going to be my target forward in this system. He's going to hold up the ball and hopefully set fellow strike partner Becker free. And speaking of Geraldo Becker, he is very quick and he's not bad at finishing either. He's kind of a winger turned striker, but that's all fine as long as he contributes to some goals. My one and only probably signing of the summer is a technical director. Great start of my relationship with the players, with what looks like 75 of my starting lineup are annoyed I didn't let Jackal, my starting centre-back, go to Leipzig for £1 million. I'm obviously not going to let that stand and let my best centre-back go for almost peanuts, aged 24 with 2 years left on his contract.
Guys, relax. Relax!
First game of the season in the Cup, and we are missing Becker, who's recovering from an injury. We got the job done against a lower division team comfortably with 39 shots in total. First league match, and it's a derby at home against Hertha. The Berliner derby, and it can be very hostile. Still, without Becker, we are going to have a job on our hands here. Match day 1 of the Bundesliga then, and we can see both lineups. Hertha are going with a standard 4-3-3. And we gave the crowd something to cheer early from a corner as Siebatcheu turned in his own rebound to make it 1-0. We were only ahead for a short time until lonely defender Diogo Leite got caught on the ball and gifted Hertha Berlin an equaliser. We piled the pressure on in the second half, and when the ball looped up for Thorsby, I almost Mourinho'd myself down the touchline. Moments later, and once again we are attacking down the right, we catch their defender napping and our shot was saved, and somehow we didn't score the rebound and the game finishes 1-1.
He's bloody missed it! What a prat! What a...
I'm going to try and bring you multiple episodes of this series each week, so make sure you are subscribed and you turn the bell on so you do not miss one. We've got a tricky game against Mainz next, and they've scored through our bad defending off a free kick. We bounced back on the half-hour mark when Jordan Siebatcheu was played over the top and he found the finish. But we are our own worst enemies, and more bad defending leads to Anisuo scoring his second of the game and the winner. RB Leipzig up next as well, who's won 2 from 2 so far. I expected them to be better than us, but looking at the statistics, they absolutely dominated us really, and we created very little. Maybe a trip to bottom of the league Schalke is exactly what we need. Before that, we have the club's first ever Europa League draw. We have to wait until pot 3 and the final group, joining Crvena of Serbia and Ghent of Belgium. Great draw for us so far. The final team to join us though is Hearts from Scotland, and honestly, looking at the tables as a whole, I think we can be really happy that we have drawn, I'd say, probably the worst group, and we can look to progress through this for sure. We played more positive against Schalke, making some tactical changes, and it paid off in a 1-0 win where great wing play allowed Becker to score. Bayern Munich is our next opponent, and we don't have our striker Becker because he's travelling to meet up with the Suriname squad. So I'll just take the loss and move on. First match in Europa League, and we couldn't capitalise on our opponents going down to 10 men after the 10th minute with a straight red. We did take the lead a minute after the red card too, and you'd think it would be an easy 3 points from here, but in the second half, we never closed down their run down the left-hand side and allowed the man all the way to the byline to cut it back for the tap-in. Very poor. An away trip to Cologne is always difficult, and we fell behind after just 5 minutes through a wonderful finish off the crossbar. Luckily, our our big American international headed us level 2 minutes later. Second half, and Cologne retook the lead for a set piece of their own. And just to prove that the near post corners are still broken, we scored another one. 2-2 was the final score. A missed penalty cost us when we lost 2-1 to Ghent in the next Europa League match. And then a loss against Wolfsburg in the following match, and I'm beginning to panic. And yes, I've changed skins twice during this episode already. I went from the Zealand 1 to the Tato 23 version, which you can find on FM Scout. I just prefer the interface of this skin rather than the Zealand 1, especially the player attributes being positioned here. Right, back to the gameplay, and I decided to change the tactics and go down the Route 1 style of play to try out this instead in a flat 4-4-2. Still on cautious, and we are a lot more direct with a higher tempo. In transition, we are set to regroup, but we'll counter, and we are defensively sitting in a mid-block and on a standard press and getting stuck in. The red card in the following match, probably because we got stuck in against Frankfurt, didn't do us much favours, and we ended up going down 4-1 to the Eagles, with them absolutely destroying us statistically with 25 shots on our goal. And we had to rely on a 90th minute winner in the Europa League to defeat Hearts. Against Stuttgart, we scored a free kick, and then they scored a free kick. Thankfully, for the first time in a while though, a goal from open play when Jamie Llewellyn scored his second winning goal in 2 games, a big 3 points in the league. Lawrence Shankland is a very good goal scorer, and he put Hearts into the lead. But thankfully, the combination of Becker and Jordan combined to find an equaliser in Edinburgh. Mainz absolutely battered us with shots in a 2-1 loss in the DFB Pokal though.
All the bloody resistance of a poppadom catching a bowling ball.
And when Boken missed a penalty and we scored, I felt really lucky. But we didn't track our runners, become lazy, and conceded in the 88th minute. At least we can rely on broken game mechanics to take the lead against Ghent in a must-win game. And when they tried to push for an equaliser in the second half, we countered them and sucker punched them to make it 2-0 before Pantovic scored a penalty for us. We actually top our Europa League group with 1 game left, but find ourselves very low in the Bundesliga, all the way down in 16th! The best cross I have ever seen found Becker to put us 1-0 up in minute 1 against Gladbach, but they came back and battered us 3-1. Our 5-2 win against Crvena meant we stayed top of our Europa League group, but Leverkusen smashed us and grabbed a late 1-0 win in stoppage time 3 days later. Back to Berlin, and we finally secure 3 points in the league after a month without against Augsburg with this 2-0 victory. No goals in the Freiburg game, and we rest for the World Cup break, in which real-life favourites Brazil won, beating Croatia 3-0 in the final. And I'm quite curious, who do you think will win the World Cup this year? Let me know down in the comment section if you think you're a football expert. I dare you. I'm going to go with Portugal. Some bad news as we go into January, as both of our starting fullbacks, Trimmel and Nico Grieshelmann, both don't want us to extend their contracts and looking to leave on freeze at the end of the season. I need to start selling some players to allow room in the budget to approach some new players, so I sold a backup winger for 1.8 million. I also sold the player I said I wouldn't sell earlier because everyone kept kicking off and I was peer pressured. We then scored this phenomenal Route 1 header from outside the box against Dortmund to take the lead, but we still lost 3-1. First signing as Union Berlin manager, as we welcome Derlis Gonzalez from Paraguay for 800k, a quality winger who can play down both wings and can be a threat for us. And then we somehow managed to sign Omar Agic on the end of contract deal, who rejected Juventus, Inter Milan and AC Milan to join us in Berlin at the end of the season. Still young and he has lots to improve on, but what a signing. Derlis Gonzalez instantly made himself a hero, scoring 25 minutes into his debut from Mitchell's cross. But Hoffenheim got a long-range equaliser through Kramaric 6 minutes later. Our big USA international then put us back ahead on the turn, firing into the top corner. But once again, Hoffenheim came back and equalised, and in the dire minutes, we attacked and scored, fortunately through a deflected shot. A 1-1 draw with Werder Bremen then followed. And it was time for the Berlinger Derby once again on a Friday night, and they are rooted to the bottom with only 9 points. Unlucky. The first goal was a free kick late in the first half, and we really had to dig in. Thankfully, a penalty pulled us back level, and in the 86th minute, our Route 1 Tony Pulis football came up trumps when Becker found his pace and also the keeper's near post. great derby win, and that puts us at the dizzy heights of 12th. We then exploited the match engine once again against Mainz with a corner, but the second goal was frankly hilarious as the goalkeeper completely lost his head. And we got arguably the best result of the season against Leipzig next, and a Route 1 football again as Becker gives us the lead. And in the 93rd minute, a big boot from the goalkeeper set Jordan free to fire in the second. They did score in the 95th minute, but it was too late, and we took 3 points back to Berlin. A 1-1 draw against Schalke, and we now sit in 10th place, and Bayern Munich up next, while on a 6-game unbeaten run. When Bayern Munich played Musiala in to score, we thought our run was over. But oh no, Jordan scored a penalty and then put us ahead from terrible game mechanics, and we think we are going to cause a huge upset in Munich. But in the 95th minute, Bayern attack one last time and slot through Mane to equalise.
You're joking.
We get our Europa League draw, and it's Real Betis in the knockouts. Our run eventually came to an end against Cologne in a 2-1 defeat. 2 more 1-1 draws in our first leg and against Wolfsburg, and all of a sudden we haven't won a game in 5. It was substitute right back Ryerson's run and eventual finish in the 89th minute that won the tie 4-3 on aggregate in the Europa League. We've become incredibly difficult to beat in the league, drawing another 2 before Dortmund finally ended our run. We just haven't won one for a while. Unfortunately, we had 2 suspensions in the Europa League first leg against Arsenal, and Bukayo Saka rinsed us with a hat-trick. So I guess we could just focus on the league and how high we can finish, which is exactly what we did against Bochum, and we took the lead for a penalty kick. Bochum equalised soon after, but an unstoppable Geraldo Beckham free kick. Yeah, you heard me right. Our next 3 points came 2 games later when Jordan Siebatcheu took advantage of Leverkusen's mistake and found the corner in a 1-0 win. 4 games left of the season and we sit in 11th spot. In the pouring rain against Augsburg, a Route 1 pass caught us out completely. Thankfully though, Thorsby rescued a point from the spot. Sometimes it's just not your day, and this Freiburg game was just that. 3-0 loss at home, not great at all. Trouble is though, if you have too many of those games across a season, it will cost you a lot of positions, and Hoffenheim destroyed us with 26 shots. But Derlis Gonzalez penalty got us 3 points on the final day. Good win against Werder Bremen. But I'm gonna need your suggestions. We have a lot of players closing in on 30 and above, and to be fair, they ain't great either. We need cheaper, younger talents, and that's where your suggestions come in. I'm obviously working on a bit of a shoestring budget, and I'll reveal that budget in a second, so I need all of your suggestions of the players that you picked up for a good price who aren't looking at the end of their career. Overall, I think it was an average season. We finished 10th in the league with our rivals Hertha Berlin going down, which was a positive. Europa is where we shone though this season, and we were just unfortunate to play Arsenal in the quarterfinals. But the DFB Pokal was the most disappointing for me, and that needs to change. Jordan Siebatcheu was our only player to get double figures, and I'd like to come away from Route 1 football next season as much as I did enjoy it at times. The board are only giving me a C+, but the supporters absolutely love me, A+. And Siebatcheu actually broke the record this season. Crazy. So before I do reveal our budget for next season, make sure you are subscribing so you do not miss another episode. Hit that notification bell, and if episode 2 is out already, I'll stick it up on the screen right here. And make sure you bring in those suggestions because I only have £7 million to spend in the summer. The board have given me £7.3 million, and after a 10th place finish and a quarter-final Europa League exit, we need to improve this team. But let's not talk about the DFB Pokal. I'll lift you one day, beautiful. We have already signed Basir Omoragic for the end of his contract, so I'm happy with improving other positions on the pitch instead. And I also want to get away from this Route 1 style of football. I was shocked to see Leipzig sacked Rose as their manager. Shocked until I seen that they finished in 5th. Unlucky. The final of the DFB Pokal was played out by Bayern Munich and Dortmund, and it was the Munich team who lifted the trophy after Serge Gnabry scored the first and Upamecano bagged the second. But I'm sure none of you seen that coming. And the Champions League final is to be played between Liverpool and Manchester City, where 3 late goals and extra time was played in Istanbul, with City winning their first ever Champions League. I have been signing players behind the scenes, but this news article popped up and the Legacy FM player in me really wanted to do this deal. But financially, we can't really afford to spend another £13 million on one player. I also forgot that we lose our best centre-back as he was only here on loan. But luckily, I secured the signing of Luca Killian from Cologne, a 23-year-old centre-back who's good with both feet. And with a couple of targets at left-back failing, I eventually signed Thomas Urujan, who had a relegation release clause in his contract at Schalke for just 1.7 million. Along with Hugo Vetlason joining us in January, that's almost all of our budget gone. Unfortunately, our players just hold no value, with £15 million being the most, and I really think this is a problem in Football Manager. You'll see in next week's rebuild, I have a problem with the valuations of some of my players who are on high contracts. They play really well, and yet they're worth millions of pounds like hardly anything is pennies. And I even tweeted out a picture of Ivan Toney being worth like £1.3 million with like 3 years left on his deal. Once again, our first game of the season is a cup game, and as you can see, we have slightly changed the tactic, and it's a more positive tactic with shorter passing, with counter press on but not counter attacking. We won the game 7-0, but again, you can't really look too much into a cup match against a lower division side. We can look into the 2 games against Werder Bremen and Dortmund coming up though. Also, can they give me some easier opponents in the second round of the bloody cup that I really want to win, please? First Bundesliga match, and both of my fullbacks are suspended, so that's ideal. And I was raging within minutes when Werder Bremen took the lead with only 4 minutes on the clock down the left-hand side. But you can't keep a tactical genius like me down, and we pulled one back from a set piece. Then Derling Gonzalez did great to win the ball back, and he gave it to Jordan to score. Jordan then put us 3-1 up when he bagged from exploiting the match engine, and he capped off his hat-trick on week 1 of the Bundesliga from the penalty spot. Dortmund must be crapping themselves. They lost to Cologne on week 1, and not gonna lie, the league table looks kind of upside down as Bochum sit top and Bayern and Dortmund are down the bottom. So I was confident. In fact, I stayed confident all the way up until Schlotterbeck scored their 4th goal of the game, and then Adeyemi got the 5th. And his hat-trick too, by the way. We also didn't score either, so it was actually a really bad day at the office. That was just a really small blip though, and my confidence to absolutely batter Hoffenheim was through the roof. Right, okay, minor setback I guess. Oh, you have got to be kidding me. Hey, I don't know what you were panicking for. Our press cornered them in, and Derlis Gonzalez was fantastic in finding Jordan Siebatcheu. Now we are back in the game, and Urujan found Thorsby, and there's Jordan once again, and we take the lead. And I'm sorry, but we are absolutely class now. Look at this goal. The turn from Jordan, the pass to Urujan, whose run was amazing, and it's 3-1, and 3 points for Union Berlin. And nothing is gonna stop us now.
Piss off. Everything's going wrong. Everything's going wrong.
Gladbach next, and they robbed the ball of our captain and scored. They then had a penalty, but it was saved. And second half, the momentum shifts, and Jamie Llewellyn equalised through the keeper's legs. And in the 93rd minute, Jamie Llewellyn was set 3 to score the winner, again through the keeper's legs. The following match 3 days later against Bochum, I decided to start the Nutmeg Master, and he did it again.
Nuts.
And you will not believe what happened the second half. Just another Jamie Llewellyn nutmeg.
Nuts.
And that win leaves us just 1 point outside the top 4 in fact. Let's see if Leipzig can handle us in the next round though, before we travel to Frankfurt. Jamie Llewellyn was bored of nutmegging keepers now, so decided to outjump the whole Leipzig defence instead to score the opener. And 3 minutes later, Martin Thorsby wanted a piece of the pie, and he smashed one into the bottom corner. This is just too easy, lads. But apparently after half-time, we were shocked to find out they wouldn't just give us the 3 points for dominating the first half, and Leipzig scored from a free kick. 4 minutes later, they broke through and ruined my day by scoring an equaliser, and I was livid. Not as livid as I was against Frankfurt when they took the lead through this volley in the 3rd minute though. Thankfully, it only took us 3 minutes before we scored ourselves through Jamie Llewellyn. And that naughty little treacle put us ahead in the 9th minute of the game. But how did it finish, you ask? I don't really want to talk about it. We then drew to Wolfsburg 0-0, who we then faced in the next match in the second round of the cup.
Are you serious right now, bro?
We then played Mainz and also lost to them in the league. After we exploited the broken mechanics of the match engine against Hanover, I felt better. But then not only did they equalise, but they must have paid off our goalkeeper to let one in. Thankfully though, Jamie Llewellyn was back with another through the goalkeeper legs masterclass.
Nuts.
Before Jordan Siebatcheu bagged the winner to get us another 3 points. Geraldo Becker then scored against Bayern Munich. Unfortunately though, at that point they were already 3 goals up and we lost 4-1. Prepare yourself though, it's another match and it's another Jamie Llewellyn masterclass. First off, Urujan crosses in beautifully to find him to score the first against Leverkusen. And very similar to that, his pace over the top this time just breaks the offside trap and he bags another. And in the second half, the man bagged himself a hat-trick in style, firing in off the post 3-0, and he takes the match ball home. He of course then went missing against Freiburg, putting in a 6.3 rating. We then thought it would be hilarious to play the next game with just 9 men. First off, Urujan got himself a second yellow, and then our captain Trimmel got himself sent off with a second yellow too, and he kicked right off, smashing the ball away in anger at the referee. I feel you, mate, I'm angry as well. And in our final game of the year, Llewellyn turned provider, crossing in wonderfully for Jordan to score. And in the second half, Schaefer, who probably should have crossed to be honest, he didn't, and his shot was palmed out for Jordan to score the second and final goal of the game, which pops us into 9th place, mid-table with 7 points to catch Wolfsburg in the European spots. Hugo Vetlesen has joined the club. Now his contract with Bodo Glimt is up, and the 23-year-old midfielder brings something very different to the club. We also confirmed Terem Moffi as a future transfer for the summer. I'm looking at Terem to join Jordan up front to try and help with the goal scoring, as Llewellyn and Becker can be very inconsistent, and Becker has been better from the right-hand side. Although we did also confirm a winger for the summer too, Turkish international Yunus Akgün from Galatasaray, who could play on both wings with great flair and dribbling ability. Somebody maybe to help transfer the ball further up the pitch. I also made a bid for Benjamin Henrichs from Leipzig, but I'm not the only team. Dortmund has as well, so he has to make a decision between one of the greatest German teams in history or Borussia Dortmund. And then Hoffenheim too. First game of the 2024 year, and it's an embarrassing loss to Werder Bremen. Henrichs then joins Dortmund and rejects us. And guess who we've got next? Henrichs did play, and although he played no part in the goals, Dortmund did score 2 and we scored 0, so I guess he gets the last laugh. For now. Hoffenheim was our next opponent and belted in a deep free kick and eventually took the lead through the rebound. But we are a far superior team, and Derlis Gonzalez showed his talents volleying in a shot with great technique. And we turned things around through a penalty. But in the 89th minute, Hoffenheim robbed us of 2 points through Christopher Lenz. Into February, and we are still exploring the match engine at set pieces. But before you head to the comments section and be all Karens about it, Jordan Sierbatcheu can score some cracking goals too, like the second one. And our high press was fantastic, and we are amazing, and Jamie Llewellyn scored yet again. So instead of being those Karens and going down and complaining in the comments section, why not just make sure you are subscribed? That'd be great. Let's move on from the Cologne match. We managed 3 shots all game. To the game we hosted Gladbach, who took the lead just before halftime, and then they scored another just before halftime. How annoying. Although we started the second half just as bad and are now 3-0 down. 81 minutes in and we get ourselves a lifeline goal, but surely not, right? 92nd minute, we are 3-1 down, and oh my god, Jordan scored. Get the ball right now. 94th minute, we chuck everything at them, and the ball drops to Urujan, and once again, I am a tactical genius, and we have completely FM'd Gladbach. Hilarious. And if you consider that in our next game we scored in minute 1 of the match, then we scored 3 goals in 4 minutes. Jamie Llewellyn also scored 12 minutes later, and then 66 minutes on the clock. So we actually scored 5 goals in 68 minutes across 2 games. Leipzig scored an equaliser against us, and now I dislike late goals again. I thought we were doing really well, but it turns out we're in 12th place, and I'm starting to doubt myself. I'm just kidding, I'm the best manager in the world. And I proved it by exploiting the match engine to beat Frankfurt 1-0. Despite Wolfsburg dominating the statistics, we still took all 3 points at the Volkswagen Arena. Against Mainz, Luca Waldschmidt took the lead in the first half. Thankfully though, Jordan Sierbatcheu is a beast, and within 10 minutes left, he ran through the defence and scored. And then we took the lead 2 minutes later through substitute Behrens, but Mainz had the audacity to exploit the near post corners against me.
How dare you?
We took our frustrations out on Hannover 96 in a 2-0 win, and just like that we are only 1 point behind the European spots. But because RB Leipzig lost, we got bumped up into position 8th without even playing a match. We do have Bayern Munich at home next though. And then Jamie Llewellyn scored against Bayern Munich. But again, we were already 3-0 down at the time, and the goal meant absolutely nothing. We bounced ourselves back up to 8th place against Bayer Leverkusen when Jordan scored a hat-trick in a 3-2 win. Alright, we exploited the match engine again from a corner, but we also rinsed Leverkusen, and Jordan is now top scorer of the league. He's joint top scorer anyway. 23 goals this season and the highest average rating in the Bundesliga. 3 games left to get us into European places, and our next match is a clash of 4-4-2s against Freiburg. Although Gonzalez made a fantastic run, I can't work out whether Freiburg's keeper is trash or has money on the game.
He is atrocious, isn't he?
Did we exploit the match engine again? Yes. But we also had a callback to last season's Route 1 football when Jordan flicked on a header for Becker to control and slot past the goalkeeper. And with Hoffenheim dropping points, we go level with them with just 2 games remaining. And guess who we play on the final game of the season? It's Augsburg. We've already played Hoffenheim twice. But guess who they play on the final game of the season? It's Dortmund, followed by Gladbach. And Dortmund smashed them 3-1, putting us in the driving seat with 2 relegation scrappers to play. Oh, you are kidding me.
You're having a laugh! You're having a laugh!
I don't know how this has happened, but there is 5 teams all fighting for 1 spot, all on the same points on the final day of the season. And we're all playing different teams too, and my opponent Augsburg need to win to avoid the relegation playoff. So I clicked to change my tactic just for the next match, and I made this tactic as attacking as possible, pushing players forward, being way more direct in our build-up play and up in the tempo, as well as clicking to start some counter-attacks as well. So with us having the worst goal difference, we needed to score a lot if the other teams were to win, and we've started really well with Jordan scoring a tap-in. We of course used the broken game mechanics too, 2-0. Then with our high pressing, we caught Augsburg napping and Llewellyn smashed it in off the post. What a finish. Second half, and more exploiting may or may not be happening. Unfortunately, that goal was cancelled by Augsburg, whose player I refused to try and pronounce, and scored to make it 4-1. But we got another one late on, once again through great pressing, and Jamie Llewellyn makes it 5. But is it enough? You are kidding me. Goddamn, Benjamin Sesko scoring a goal that stops us from playing European football, or the Augsburg goal that I refuse to pronounce. Just 1 more goal and we would go up a position through scoring more goals than Leipzig.
I'm stunned.
So I'll stick the next episode up here if it is out. Make sure you enjoy it and subscribe if you haven't, because we have been given £9 million for next season. We suffered heartbreak on the final day of the season, missing out by 1 goal. Ciabacci, however, got the most goals in the league and the highest average rating with the most man of the matches. And it had nothing to do with exploiting the match engine. I also cheered really loudly when my favourite German team Frankfurt beat Dortmund in the DFB Pokal final in the 93rd minute. Oh, and by the way, cheers to the geezer in the comments who told me about that Copper 90 documentary on Union Berlin and their stadium, and I also watched this rivalry video too. Very good. But don't you dare click off and go watch that immediately, wait till after. But I did appreciate learning about how the fans actually built this stadium. Back to business then, and we've got Terem Moffi and Akgun coming in for free with £10 million in the budget. Liverpool have won the Champions League on penalties against our German champions Bayern Munich. And looking at our squad, I decided that the left mid spot is what really needs upgrading. And I wasted no time bringing in Arana from Brazil, who naturally is a left back but can play left midfield very well, and he has everything that I'm looking for attribute-wise in that left midfield spot. I also got offered an interview for the Hoffenheim job, which I declined. They just know I'm the greatest manager of all time, don't they? So we have 3 good signings coming in Akgun, who can play both sides, Arana can play both positions on the left, and Terem Moffi starts as our advanced forward but can be the target man if needed. I've just had an interesting offer for Llewellyn. It's not as much as his value, but I would be open to selling him. His attributes aren't really that great, but statistically, he did score 19 goals last season. It just seemed to be a lot of multiples in different games. I negotiated to what I felt like would be an acceptable offer, and they matched it. And a bid for Geraldo Becker, however, I don't really know. There's something about him that makes me want to keep him despite him not performing as well as Llewellyn. I really am the worst manager ever, aren't I? Unfortunately for us, Becker really wanted to go and has declared that he is going to leave next year on a free. Not in my book, son. I'm going to take this £10 million bid from Gladbach and I'll just buy a replacement with the funds. Thankfully though, I think you'll like my record transfer replacement in Cancellieri from Lazio, a young winger with bags of potential and instantly improves the quality of our squad. And we lock Siebatcheu down for a longer contract, so it's a very good day for Union Berlin. Our pre-season friendlies went well, we even beat Man United. Scouts are forcing Diomande down my throat, and I've resisted the signing so much up until now because I've signed him so many times in the past. But he is literally going for peanuts, and I don't know how much longer I can turn that down. DFB Pokal first round against Ingolstadt. Come to me, sexy, this is gonna be our year. Let's see what this team can do then. Horrendous kick clash, by the way, but anyway, great start when Cancellieri assisted Teremoffi within 15 minutes. And our wing play worked again not long later when overlapping fullback Uvejan crossed in for Jordan to also head one in. Good stuff. I realised we had no backup right back and Man City don't want anything for Rico Lewis, so that's an absolute steal on loan. Yet again, we get a Bundesliga team in the second round of the DFB Pokal. Our first game of the season, and we faced Mainz and the Nutmeg Master Llewellyn. And of course, Llewellyn was the man who scored for Mainz. However, before he did that, we scored already through Teremoffi. And again, before Llewellyn had scored for Mainz, Jordan Siebatcheu had scored a second as well, meaning his goal was to get them back into the game, but Jordan scored a penalty in the second half and we won 3-1. FC Cologne came next before we host Dortmund. And once again, we are cooking on gas early as the boys play to Siebatcheu, who finds Teremoffi, and we are 1-0 up inside 2 minutes. But from kickoff, Cologne won a corner and the ball fell to Breithaupt, whose shot deflected in our net, 1-1. But we were unfazed, and this time Thorsby found Moffi to put us back into the lead. And in the 83rd minute, Teremoffi turned provider when he cut it across for Jordan to tap in the win. Unfortunately, as the game closed out, the ball was played over the top and Killian brought down a player, and of course, he was the last man, and the referee gave him a straight red card, so he now misses the Dortmund game. I thought this was quite interesting that Union Berlin had the second lowest commercial income in the league, only ahead of Dusseldorf, who apparently bring in absolutely nothing. Looking at this Dortmund squad then, they've actually made some really good improvements, bringing in Diego Dalot at right back, Pulisic on the wing, and Patrick Schick up front. And yet, with all that attacking firepower on both sides, the game ended 0-0.
I bet I'm stunned.
On deadline day, I made another incredible loan move for Thiago Tomas of Sporting as our backup striker with an optional future fee of just 7 million. He's still only 22 and he has some fantastic attributes and some very good physicals. Transfer window now closed, and that might be one of my best windows I've ever had on FM23. Back to the games, and Aranya plays in Jordan to score another early goal. Unfortunately, there's not much we could do about Hoffenheim's equaliser. It was simply just a cracking strike. Thankfully, we tried to exploit some game mechanics, but Jordan's header hit the post, but it's played back across and Teremoffi sweeps up. Don't panic, Jordan, my American friend. Uvejan will find you at the near post to tap in your second. We then ripped Hoffenheim open next with a Rania pass to Jordan, who played Moffi through, and it's 4-1, and that's the final score. We beat Hamburg in the league 1-0 through a corner, and it's actually funny how many goals we continue to score from these. There's one more, and the second against Dusseldorf too. The third, though, that came from Route 1 football as Jordan heads on for Moffi to take it around the goalkeeper. Somehow we are unbeaten and top of the league. The 9 men of Augsburg only held us to a 1-0 win from the spots. Jordan Siebatcheu put us ahead against Eintracht Frankfurt, but Sander Berge hit a rocket and we drew the game 1-1. I am telling you, wing play is incredible this year. What a cross and header by Jordan. But near post corners still exist, to be fair, but I do love the fact that Route 1 football works too. Jordan gets a hat-trick in this 4-2 win against Werder Bremen. We are still top of the league, unbeaten, and Jordan Siebatcheu is smashing in the goals with 12 in 9, and Uvejan has 8 assists. It's an incredible start to the season. The only worrying thing is we only have 3 goal scorers in 11 games so far. DFB Pokal next. And surely with the form that we're on right now, we are not going to lose this match.
You can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious!
Well, let's hope that doesn't affect our league form. Yep, that affected our league form, alright. We've now dropped off top place and face Leipzig next. And we scored an own goal. And then we conceded another and lost 2-0. The board then gave us more funds. They gave me £2 million.
Oh, let's go! That's class!
The final games in 2024 weren't that great considering our start to the season either, winning 2 games, drawing 1 and losing 2 to Gladbach and Bayern Munich. Back to the football after the winter break, and Mainz take the lead in the first minute of the match. Brilliant. Thiago Tomas then somehow didn't score, but luckily the ball dropped to Siebatcheu, who did score. Some new names on the score sheet as Rani Khedira puts us ahead, and finally, Uwe Jan scores a great free kick to secure the points. After conceding 2 first-half goals, we needed a fight back. With Terem Moffi at the AFCON, it was Thiago Tomas who pulled the 1 goal back. No comment about the second goal, wink wink. But being a Union Berlin fan isn't always great. Back-to-back defeats to Dortmund and Hoffenheim. Once again, we win 1-0 though through exploiting the mechanics of the match engine against Hamburg. And then we lost to Dusseldorf. Another 1-0 win when Uwe Jan's perfectly weighted pass found Thiago Tomas against Augsburg. And another 1-0 win when Schaefer smashed a volley when the ball came down from the heavens. What a goal that is. When Werder Bremen came to Berlin next, they were greeted with a Jordan Siebatcheu hat-trick. Uwe Jan even assisted the first 2 goals as well, and finally Cancellieri, from which he switched wings during the end of the first half. The game finished 3-2. We ended March with 4 wins from 4 when Jordan got back-to-back hat-tricks. And this put Jordan top of the goal-scoring charts, 1 above Patrick Schick, but even after 4 wins in a row, we still only sit in 6th place. Make that 5 wins in a row. Our winning streak finally ended when we faced RB Leipzig, and they took the lead from a scramble in our 6-yard box. Thankfully though, Thorsby popped up with a header and the game finished 1-1. And you'd think we'd just slip straight back into our winning streak, right? Wrong! We got battered 4-0 at home. But I bet that made the players come out of the dressing room in the next match firing on all cylinders, right? Wrong again! We got destroyed by Bayern Munich. What made it worse was Bayern Munich actually won the league thanks to that win.
Piss off. Everything's going wrong. Everything's going wrong.
That, however, was enough to kick us back into gear, and Thorsby received the ball, cut in on his right foot, and smashed in the only goal of the match against Stuttgart. Disgustingly, Freiburg used broken game mechanics to score against us.
How dare you?
We were just really lucky that when we worked out from a corner, it fell to Schaefer, whose finish was wonderful, and we will take the 1-1 draw. And that does guarantee us European football next season, and we go into the final day needing just a point to make sure it's Europa League and not the Conference League. So what side of UEFA will we fall on? Well, once again, prepare yourself for the most epic final days of the season you're ever gonna see. I'm just kidding, the game finished 0-0. There were 29 shots and neither team could score. Hold on just a second though. Freiburg are in the cup final, and if they win, they get our Europa League spot instead of us. And it went to damn extra time as well. We need Leipzig to lift the trophy, and Amin Gori finally broke the deadlock after 99 minutes. And when Freiburg pushed for an equaliser, it was Christopher Nkunku who punished them, making it 2. And just for good measure, Benjamin Sesko popped up and made the scoreline 3-0. And we can sit happily in 6th, knowing that we are returning to the Europa League next season. But with how much of a budget will we have to increase our quality in this team for Europe? Well, make sure you are subscribed and you turn that notification bell on, because next week the next episode will drop. If it is already out, I'll pop it up on screen right now, because we have £20 million to play around with. We are qualified for Europa League, with a little thanks to Leipzig, who beat Freiburg in the DFB Pokal. Speaking of which, I need to get my hands on that trophy soon. Throughout the season, I served my scouts to unearth new talent for these transfer windows, and there are so many players on these lists. However, there is also recruitment focuses where they found nobody, which I still find hard to believe given the parameters I set. Jordan Siebatcheu was also named in the Bundesliga Team of the Year. As July comes around, we welcome 4 new players to the squad. Starting off with the oldest, we have Sekou Koita, who replaces Thiago Tomas as our backup striker that we got on a free transfer from Salzburg. Then we have Diamonde. I mentioned him last season, again a free transfer, but I simply couldn't turn him down, and he is easily now our best player in my opinion, and he's only 23. I then spent £1.6 million on a Serbian regen. His name is Milan Marjanovic, and at only age 18, he is an incredible player. I would probably loan out for the first team football, but he has a 17 for first touch and passing. And I found this guy through attribute searching, and this is how. Head to the player's search and set up 3 attributes you want in that player role. I wanted an attacking centre midfielder, so I went for passing, first touch and technique, and that already gave me loads of options. And then I changed the age down, and it gave me a lot of terrible players, but you will will eventually find a gem in there, but of course, you need attribute masking off. And it's as easy as that. You literally pick 3 or 4 attributes within whatever position or role that you are searching for in the player search, and have a look. It will take you some time, but you might find some gems like I did with Marjanovic. The final player we spent the most money on at £12 million from Bayern Munich. Centre midfield, Noel Aseko Enkili, and I have 2 plans for him. He has great attributes and potential to be a fantastic midfielder, but I also need more players available at right back, and he already has good attributes for that also. I have adapted another tactic off the back of last season's 4-4-2, as we have some quality new centre midfielders in the club, and I wanted to get Cancellieri more involved after a very quiet first season, so I pushed him further forward. To my shock, Bayern Munich then put in an offer for Dortmund's best player. It just never something that I thought would ever see happening. Marjanovic has moved to fellow Bundesliga side Hamburg for the season as an important player. Aranya then picks up an injury and will miss the start of the season, so the new tactic might actually be what we have to go for. The usual first round of the DFB Pokal kicks off the season, and after they lost a player to a straight red early, we put 10 past them, warming us up for our first game of the season against Borussia Dortmund. We finally didn't get a difficult draw in the second round of the cup either. I told you this could be our year. So we start this season with a couple of players missing, but still an improvement from last season. And players like Omar Rakic have developed incredibly well since joining the club. And we won the game 1-0. We continued our good form within 5 minutes of the away trip to Hamburg, and the task of getting Cancellieri more involved was checked off when he scored a second. Uwe Can, after his free kick goal, then set up Jordan, before Hamburg got one back before half-time for a world-class finish. But we finished things off through Sekou Koita coming off the bench. Unfortunately, Diomande broke his foot during this game and will be out for quite a long time. We've been given our fixtures for Europa League, and we do have a couple of really tricky games, ending with an away trip to Juventus. And we took our first loss of the season 3-2 to 10-man Freiburg through a very bizarre goal when it looked like we had the ball cleared. Against Augsburg, we had to switch back to the 4-4-2 because multiple injuries to our midfielders. Jordan Siebatcheu scored the worst penalty ever, and Augsburg came back and equalised in the 82nd minute, taking it around our goalkeeper. But with pretty much the last kick of the game, substitute Derlis Gonzalez volleyed home a beauty to clinch all 3 points. And Ryerson has also joined the injury list too. Our return to Europa League wasn't a happy one, as being 1-0 down, 2-1 up, we lost 4-2 to Trabzonspor. A 0-0 draw and a battering against Frankfurt, and September ended with 3 games without a win. Our injury list already for this season alone is horrendous, so I altered the training workload for the squad. Things looked a lot more comfortable in Europa League as we went 3-0 up against Bulgarian side CSKA Sofia, but they did come back to make it 3-2 in the end. Uwe Can smacked in a late free kick to save a point against Hoffenheim. A combination of first terrible defending, our high pressing, and their awful goalkeeping led us to take our most comfortable 3 points yet in the Bundesliga. 4 different scorers and 4 very good goals from our point of view, just not theirs.
Come on, man. That's too easy.
Another win in Europa League, a 0-0 against Wolfsburg, and finally a second round win at DFB Pokal. Cancellieri really is getting involved a lot more in his new role, including this phenomenal pass to find Jordan Siebatcheu. This game against Gladbach was another example of our pressing football, a fantastic quality that we've developed in the last couple of seasons, putting in another strong performance in a 3-1 win. Against Mainz, new signing Sekou Koita stepped up. Not only did he score a goal, but Mainz equalised in the 90th minute. And we needed a hero, and Sekou Koita was the guy when he was set free in the 95th minute to secure the 3 points. But this is where it all started to go wrong. We lost the game against FC Bayern Munich, as well as the next 2 Europa League games, putting us in 24th as it stands, the last position for qualification to the knockout stage. But after the 0-0 draw with Leipzig, which you would say is positive, we then lost our goalkeeper due to injury for a few weeks. And despite fighting through a 3-3 draw with Cologne, which can already be a hard match, we also lost Morten Thorsby to another long-term injury.
Piss off. Everything's going wrong. Everything's going wrong.
The board asked if I'd like to increase the transfer budget, and of course I agreed, so they upped it by 1.4 million. So with our injury list ever increasing, we have the first Berlin derby in a couple of seasons after Hertha were promoted. So I switched it up and I've gone attacking. 3 up top, very risky, but I think the fans will enjoy how much we go for it.
I will love it if we beat them. Love it.
And yet, with all that firepower and the derby, we only saw 1 goal, and that was Seiko Koita's back post cross for Jordan Siebatcheu to finish. This guy is such a legend. Our luck is turning as we draw lower league division side Heidenheim in the next round of the competition. Although we did drop 4 points in the next 2 league games with 2 draws, but we are still within striking distance of Champions League football as we move into the new year. But with results like this against Dortmund, I don't think we are ready for that just yet. And Heidenheim took us all the way to penalties in the DFB Pokal, and despite us going behind, we were just really lucky that Heidenheim completely bottled it. Terem Moffi's first minute goal is exactly what we needed against Hamburg to push on and win. This isn't good. That isn't great either, and yet another injury to one of our main players. When we pulled Monaco in the playoffs of Europa League, I thought it would be game over, but after our near post corner opener, Morten Thorsby's worldie caught me right off guard. Vanderson, who I'm a big fan of at Monaco, went on an unstoppable run, and his cutback found an eventual crucial goal in the first leg for Monaco. But in the second leg, when Boadu scored in the 6th minute, I then thought the dream was going to be all over. But on the 20th minute, from Monaco's bad touch, Terem Moffi pinched the ball and then did this. And we knock out Monaco. And yet again, we needed penalties to advance in the quarterfinals of the DFB Pokal against a lower division team. Now, I know I'm not really making much of a big deal about this DFB Pokal run, but up until now, I haven't been as excited, but we're in the semi-finals. And we've just been drawn against Greuther Fürth. We've just completely crapped the bed in the league, although we did just beat Fürth 3-2, so that's a good sign. And look how late the equaliser and the winner was from Terem Moffi. And yes, that's 2 more injuries. Before that game, Terem Moffi had only scored 7 goals in the league, which was a little bit worrying in 20 games considering he's got 5 in the cup. So we are still only 2 points outside of European spots, but we can't just grasp any form in the league. So let's knock out Atalanta in Europa League instead. Although we do have 7 players missing.
I'm a fighter and not a quitter.
And Atalanta punished us when Ederson scored early, followed by Zapata not long after. But with a little bit of broken set-piece exploitation, which I know the comment section will absolutely love, we pulled one back. And then just from Uwe Jan's unreal cross, Seiko Koita levels it up in the first leg. Someone in the last episode asked me why I'm so bad at transfers. Okay. Unfortunately, an 88th minute goal from Pasalac and Atalanta ended our hopes. We gave such a good count of ourselves, but injuries have sucked our quality from this season. I mean, come on, some players have already been injured 5 times this season already. This 95th minute winner from Jordan Siebatcheu was so important, and by the way, what a header. Because that Mainz win is really our only positive in the league for a while. We are getting just slapped up before our semi-final as well. And so it is semi-final time, arguably our most important game of the season, to give us a shot at the trophy I desire most. And shockingly, we have almost a fully strengthened squad. And unfortunately, we took our league form onto the pitch as well, and Fürth actually scored the first goal. It took until the 83rd minute before we finally broke through with Terem Moffi and took the game to penalties, where after both teams scored 3 each, Greuther Fürth scored their 4th and Koita missed. Luckily, they missed the next penalty, and it was sudden death that carried us on. But young Amad Diallo stepped up and Frederic Ronau didn't move, and ultimately his laziness put us into the final of the DFB Pokal, 3 penalty shootouts in a row. But as you can imagine, Bayern Munich made light work in their semi-final, winning 5-1. Now a game later, after losing to Cologne, our next match is the Berlin derby, and with a win we guarantee that Hertha are at least destined to play in the relegation playoff, if not worse. But with something to play for, Hertha Berlin struck in the first minute through Selke, who then decided to slap our player out of nowhere in no danger whatsoever and earn himself a red card in the 9th minute. Cheers, mates.
He could have been killed.
Which made our job a lot easier, and we didn't waste much time before Jordan Siebatcheu scored. Terem Moffi then put us ahead before half-time, and he extended in the second half before Lawrence Dell made it 4, and we laughed in their face. Unlucky. Let's cut to the chase. We finished in 9th place this season. That's not good enough. Hertha has survived relegation for now and won the first leg of the league playoff. So it's cup final time, and we are rocking our 4-4-2. FC Bayern Munich, still with Julian Nagelsmann in charge, look very similar to start off with, just adding Diogo Costa and Tapsoba to their lineup. And it does appear they are playing 3 centre-backs as well. But according to their lineups, they are actually playing a 4-2-3-1 with De Ligt in centre mid, which I find quite interesting. We started things off with your favourite type of goal in just the 7th minute. And before we could even think about it being a fluke and start to worry, Jordan Siebatcheu scored again 3 minutes later from another Uwe Jan cross, and what a header it was as well. It took Bayern Munich a ton of piled on pressure, and eventually they pulled one back through Serge Gnabry's long range strike. But again, before they could even think about equalising, we shocked them with an incredible move, putting in the performance of the season and winning the DFB Pokal for Union Berlin. We somehow pulled off an incredible performance when it was needed most and won my favourite trophy. And considering we barely got through the last 3 rounds, all on penalty shootouts after 3 1-1 draws, I think we can consider that a bloody miracle. But arguably the best point of that cup win is we actually qualify for Europa League next season, but with only £20 million to spend. Well, I think we possibly need a new goalkeeper and maybe a centre-back. But what do you think? Let me know down in the comments section. Make sure you are subscribed so you do not miss the next episode. Speaking of which, I'll stick it up on screen right now if it is out. We beat Bayern Munich in the cup final, and we lifted the DFB Pokal trophy. And it's a good job we did, really, because we finished down in 9th place. So winning the cup means Europa League football next season. And in a season full of injuries, I'm hoping to put all of that behind us.
You can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious!
So with those injuries and the desire to improve, I've been busy in this transfer window. And when Marjanovic returned from his long duty, I seen he was capped for Serbia, and I looked at Serbia's team. And I proceeded to sign 3 of their hot prospects. First off, we have Laszlo Farkas, left back, very good mentals, not so good on the technicals or physicals just yet, but he's only 19 years of age and we picked him up for 500k. Followed by Goran Ivanovic. This guy looks class until you realise he can't really head the ball. But again, he's only 19 years of age and he's very brave, just like Laszlo Farkas, and he has some very good attributes other than that. He is 6'5", and as a centre-back, I like 6'5" players. Plus, only 950k. And finally, we've got Milos Misic, who plays on the right-hand side at the back. Once again, fantastic in the mentals department, really good on the physicals department too, just kind of lacking some technicals. But once again, he's only 19 and from Serbia, and we only spent £1.1 million. However, we did actually sign one more player before the window opened, and that was Vladan Kovacevic, who is a Bosnian goalkeeper, and this guy is fantastic. We are needing a new goalkeeper. I said I wanted to improve with one, and this 6'4" Bosnian is perfect, and we only spent £2.1 million. We still have £13 million to spend, and we will look to see who else to bring in. We were also invited to start a second team, which I was really happy with, as it means game time for our youngsters coming through. With Basir Omoragic out for half of the season, I decided to bring in another centre-back with the experience of Victor Nelson, the big Dane with fantastic mentals, for £3.3 million from AC Milan. Of course, after beating Bayern Munich in the final, we got to play them in the Super Cup, and both the fans and supporters believe the cup final was a fluke.
How dare you?
So with a couple of tactical tweaks to the 4-4-2 and with some players recovering from injury, we look to cause back-to-back upsets on the champions, who just spent over £100 million on Bukayo Saka. Okay, maybe the fans and board were right.
Guys, relax. Relax!
Our potential final signing is Ez Abdi from Barcelona, who plays on both wings. After winning 8-1 in the first round of the cup, we head into 3 games starting with Werder Bremen. Our start to the league campaign was just as poor as we ended last season's, conceding after 5 minutes. We had a corner which was played out and we eventually worked the ball into Diamonde, who knew exactly where the net was. But it didn't last long, and as soon as Werder bagged the second, we lose 2-1. Followed by a 2-1 loss to Dortmund as well, well from this 92nd minute from Sule. Thankfully, we got our first points on the board in the following game against Stuttgart in a fantastic 4-0 win. And we thoroughly deserved it too, playing really well and playing to our strengths and using our physicality and putting the game away early, scoring all 4 goals by the 70th minute. Unfortunately, we absolutely sucked again when we faced Freiburg. Europa League though against Partizan, and brace yourselves, it was a great penalty from Jordan, and then Ivanovic, the Serbian against the Serbian team, brings the ball down, mazy run, and smashes in the best goal off the crossbar I've ever seen. We finished the game 3-0 when Jordan Siebatcheu got himself a brace in the second half. We then robbed Leipzig of all 3 points when our goalkeeper got man of the match in this 0-0 win. But in a much better performance, we rattled 5 past Wolfsburg away. And we played terribly against Bayern Munich and lost 3-0, but I was not that disappointed, and I will show you why. We actually had a decent month in the Bundesliga, ending it with another 5-0 win against Mainz. And in the Europa League, we won 2 games, a 4-1 against Rangers and a 5-1 against Galatasaray. We even scored a late winner against Leverkusen in the second round of the DFB Pokal to beat them 3-2. And I have the tactical tweaks I made in the last couple of months to thank. We do sit in 7th at the minute and a little outside the European spots, but Europa League itself is going well, being in the top 8 so far, and we have Mainz next in the DFB Pokal. Jordan's still scoring most of the goals, and there is a lot more of a supporting cast from midfield chipping in is what I've noticed this season. So on to November, when we started the month off beating St. Gallen, followed by a win against Dusseldorf with a couple of late goals. 2 even later goals in a win against Augsburg. Another easy win in Europa League followed, and finishing off the month with a 4-1 win against Arminia Bielefeld. What a great month that is! It's only moved us into 6th place in the league, but 2 points behind 2nd. Bayern Munich have won 13 out of 13, by the way.
Are you serious right now, bro?
On to December, and we continued our fantastic form against Gladbach when Jordan Siebatcheu struck first. To their credit though, Gladbach did equalise 5 minutes later through Brereton Diaz, but luck was firmly in our corner. Although you do make your own luck in my opinion, Seydou Koita bangs in the winning goal in the 91st minute. Our winning run finally came to an end when Hamburg held us to a 0-0 draw. And after drawing to Cologne, we go into the Berlin derby on an 11-game unbeaten run, winning 8 of those last 11 matches. And we found ourselves up by 2 just before Piatek's goal. Jordan then banged in a penalty to make it 3, and it was our Italian stallion Cancellieri who found the near post in a massive 4-1 away derby win. What a perfect way to end the year 2026. In the new year, we secured the signing of Tyler Adams for the summer on a free transfer from Leeds, a quality player who can play in a number of different positions on the pitch and has an incredible array of attributes, especially in the mental and physical department. Remember how much of an amazing run we went on through November and December? Well, although we only lost 1 game to Stuttgart in January, an embarrassing 4-0 as well, we only won 1 game in Europa League and we drew the rest. We also faced Mainz in the DFB Pokal 3rd round and looked confident as we went 1-0 up through Cancellieri in the 44th minute. And then he doubled our lead through an even better goal that he scored right on half-time. But Mainz decided to show up in the 86th minute when Serda's run was unchecked and he pulled one back, only to then equalise in the 90th minute before taking the game to extra time, where Lawrence Dell put us back in front. But with the last kick of the game in the 121st minute, Liam Miller fancied some penalties. His teammate didn't know and he missed the first penalty. We didn't know, and after a couple of more was scored, Gonzalez's penalty was saved, evening up the shootout. And then the keeper made a fantastic save from Cancellieri, and after Mainz scored their next couple, they went on and won 4-3 on penalties to knock us out. So our focus must turn to the league, where we sit just outside of the European spots, and in Europa League, where we have indeed qualified in the top 8 unbeaten. Let's take a look at our Serbian youngsters then, as Marjanovic is looking absolutely fantastic and playing well too. Ivanovic has started over the half of the Bundesliga games so far and again has done a solid job developing really well. Farkas hasn't started as much of the games as what he'd liked and he is unhappy because of that. Misic is out on loan and started 18 games so far and playing really well. One of the teams above us in Europa spots is Leipzig, and they pulled ahead against us through Jan Thielmann. But completely against the run of play in a game that they were dominating, we grabbed an equaliser. And in the second half, Diomande worked hard to get the ball back and Aranya got his second assist assist of the game when Sekou Koita slotted in the winner. That was followed by a 3-0 win against 10-man Wolfsburg. We unfortunately fell 3-0 ourselves when we travelled to Leverkusen. But on a more positive note, we got our draw for the Europa League and French side Angers awaits. And we gained the advantage of the first leg 1-0 when Aranya dispossessed their defender to find Moffi for an easy goal. We were a lot stronger in the frost of March for the home leg, winning the game 4-1 and 5-1 across both legs. 4 different goal scorers and all around some very good performances from Union Berlin. Either side of that match though, we unfortunately lost both of the Bundesliga matches against Frankfurt and Bayern Munich, who by the way have run away with the league. Again, we finish off the month defeating Mainz 1-0 once again with a Terem Moffi goal. A tasty tie against Newcastle in the quarterfinals of the Europa League to come, but our rivals Hertha, they're in a little bit of trouble again. 16th! Before you see the results of the Europa League, I think I need to remind you of how much money we haven't spent throughout this series so far. Whereas Newcastle in the first season alone already spent 45 million, then 85 million pound, and we can see here bringing in the likes of Lewis Dunk and Tanganga. They're not the best players, but then the following season another 126 million was spent. Again, they're not spending it that well, but as you go on, they seem to be getting better and better. Jefferson Lerma's a good signing. Curtis Jones on a free transfer is not bad at all. And the final season here, £123 million with the likes of Ivan Toney, John Stones, Thiago, some really big hitters. And it was 26-year-old Curtis Jones who I want to highlight most for the Toon Army, because he absolutely ripped us open. I mean, his mate and one of my favourite players to watch at the minute, Bruno Guimaraes, he also played a part in all 3 of Curtis Jones's goals as Newcastle beat us in the first leg 5-2 in a great display where money truly prevailed over our young, hard-working lineup. We couldn't quite fight back in the second leg either, and it's a quarter-final exit from the Europa League.
I can't believe it!
Back to the Bundesliga, however. It's 4 wins from 4, a huge month for the club, and although we were playing the bottom half of the league, it was still fantastic to see. And the final game of the season is the Berlin Derby, which could be one of the most important Berlin derbies ever, as we fight for Champions League football and they fight to survive in the league. Surely we wouldn't be the ones to relegate them, right? Well, we started the month off beating Hamburg 1-0, and Hertha lost to Wolfsburg 3-1. But the team below them, Dusseldorf, they drew to Augsburg before beating Bielefeld 1-0. And after going 1-0 up, Hertha lose to Bayer Leverkusen, meaning Dusseldorf go 2 points ahead and Hertha need to beat us to survive, and Dusseldorf to lose as well. Meanwhile, we were battered by Cologne and need a result for a certain European competition qualification. So yes, it is the most important Berlin derby ever, and it was the AI who made a massive defensive mistake and Terem Moffi stole the ball and finished in the 6th minute. Diamonde then rattled in a free kick, and what a home game this is for Union Berlin fans as Jordan put in a penalty to send Hertha Berlin down to the Bundesliga 2. And it also confirmed one more thing. We have qualified for the Champions League.
Get in!
Finishing in 4th, which is going to be absolutely fantastic for us financially and to challenge us next season. Dusseldorf also win their final game, so Hertha would have been screwed anyway, but it was still great to send them down relegated. The squad has been fantastic, and a lot of youngsters have stepped up with more first-team football. Just like Marjanovic, who is pretty much our best player now. Make sure you're subscribed though, and how much do you think the board have given us for Champions League football next season? Well, I'll tell you, it was just £17 million. After 5 seasons, we have finally qualified for the Champions League at Union Berlin, giving us our toughest season yet. So we need to upgrade the club, starting off with the training facilities, which the board agreed with. I also improved the coaching staff, giving us some of the greatest footballing minds in the Bundesliga. And speaking of the Bundesliga, we are finally rising up in the commercial income table in the league as well. However, we are still getting these long-term injuries, and I really don't know how to prevent them. Somebody actually told me in the comments that you can download something, probably from Steam Workshop, where it implements all the injuries by like minus 50%. So you should get half the amount of injuries as what you are usually getting if you're finding there are a lot of injuries. Just giving you a heads up and a tip if you want to use it. Last season though, Manchester City won the Champions League. And two clubs came in and matched Terem Moffi's £30 million release clause, and he rejected Frankfurt. And he decided to reject a new contract from us and move to Cologne. A team, remember, that we bumped out of the top 4 into Europa League.
I can't believe it!
I also started to look at players to upgrade on what we have, like Satriano, who, as you can see, is clearly better than Jordan Siebatcheu. But he wanted far too high of wages, so let's take a look and see who I brought in instead. And as we mentioned at the end of the last episode, we have signed Tyler Adams on a free transfer from Leeds United, the USA international. He has 92 caps as well. I love his energy. I love the fact that he can bomb around the pitch. He gets forward whenever possible. His mental attributes are insane. And of course, he can play in a number of different positions and player roles. Speaking of free transfers, I have also signed Mile Sviljar, the backup goalkeeper, seeing as we just lost ours at the end of his contract. He's only 28, so he's going to be good for a long time, and he's quite decent as well, and he has agreed to be a backup, which is the most important thing. We picked him up from Roma. My scouts then recommended me a 23-year-old right back, and I was like, I don't think I need a right back, until I seen how good he was and how cheap he is. This is William Mikkel Brenkes, which I probably have got wrong. As I mentioned, he's 23 years of age, and I think he is really good, especially for the Bundesliga and the fact that we're going to be going into Champions League football. So I like his attributes. He still has some room to grow. He can play further up the pitch if possible, and we only picked him up for 9.25 million after playing a fair amount of seasons in the Bundesliga, doing quite well. And in 3 games, he's already got himself a goal and an assist and a player of the match. That's a bargain. When we received the first round of the cup draw, I thought we had been pranked when I saw FC Bayern, but apparently they like the name and a very similar badge, just in blue. And we punished them for impersonation 6-0, whilst also giving new signing Vitor Roque some confidence moving to a new country when he picked up a lovely brace to kick off his career in Berlin. And I thought we were going to kick off the Bundesliga with a win when Diamonde scored, but Werder Bremen got a late equaliser from this free kick. We then took a home defeat to Cologne 4-3, but Terem Moffi, the £30 million new striker, was sat on the bench and didn't even feature. How much money do Cologne have if they can just put a player worth that much just sat on the bench? We finally got our first win of the Bundesliga and a 2-0 win against Eintracht Frankfurt, where both of our new signings got the goals in a solid performance. We are still rocking the same tactic that we did last season with, however, this lineup, which is the last time that you will see this team. Because Chelsea have activated the release clause of Aseko Nkili right before the transfer window closes. Cheers. And of course, the transfer went through once the window shut, meaning we couldn't even sign a replacement. Well, we've got to look ahead and focus on our Champions League fixtures, which we have been given now. A couple of tasty matches, including hosting PSG and a trip to Stamford Bridge. Before we faced Apoel though, we had to rescue a point against Stuttgart after being 2 goals down very late through Sekou Koita's goals in the 83rd and 91st minute. Our first game of the Champions League, and Apoel took the lead through very poor goalkeeping from Kovacevic. New Brazilian striker Vitor Roque leveled things up almost immediately with a very composed finish, before Marjanovic turned it on to curl one into the corner. But second half was very tight and we held on into the 89th minute when Uwe Jan finally scored our third to secure our first Champions League win. Then we went and lost to Dusseldorf. But it's time to show some appreciation for our Serbian new-gen Marjanovic, because we faced Bayern Munich next, who scored early through a penalty, and that's when Marjanovic became unplayable. First bringing down the loose ball and leaving his man for Dust to fire in the equaliser. He played a wayward pass in the second half that Jordan Siebatcheu eventually won back to score a second, and then Marjanovic once again started to dance around the defenders and pop in a third of the game. Bayern pulled one back, but we held on and Marjanovic wins man of the match. We replicated the same scoreline next in the Champions League trip to Villarreal. Our league form has been bad, especially considering one of our 2 wins was against Bayern Munich. You'd think we'd be a little higher in the league. No complaints in the Champions League though, 2 from 2, but we are back to meeting tough opponents in the second round of the DFB Pokal. Daddy misses you, beautiful. Just a 1 goal in the only Champions League game of October when Rafael Leao Vidal destroyed us down the wing and cut it back for Benjamin Sesko to give PSG the win. What an outrageous team they have, by the way. Our quest to win back the DFB Pokal is on track when we beat Bayer Leverkusen 3-2, starting with this Vitor Roque's 3rd minute goal. Diamonde's 65th minute penalty miss was the difference in 2 points extra against a tough Freiburg team who came back from 2 goals behind to level 2-2. Luckily, this month's seen another 2 wins against Hamburg in a 3-0 win and Leipzig, a team battling for a similar position to us, 4-2.
Come on, man. That's too easy.
Well, then we did get slapped up by Dortmund, but I don't think we'll talk about that one.
Oh no! Oh no!
And our trip to Stamford Bridge is next. And strap yourself in, because what a game this was. Chelsea opened the scoring when they worked a throw in into the box and Kai Havertz controlled the pass well, turned and shot into the bottom corner. They played the ball down the right-hand side again where Havertz was put through and he made no mistake, doubling the lead. Just 3 minutes later though, Thorsby retrieved the ball, found Vitor Roque whose snapshot found the net, 2-1. But moments after half-time, Cancellieri gave the ball away and Darwin Nunez made it 3-1. We answered back again when Vitor Roque got his 2nd of the match, 3-2. But literally the next minute, the 2-goal advantage was restored when Nunez also got his 2nd of the match. So with 3 players racing to the match ball, it was Vitor Roque who made sure the ball was coming home with him when he made it 4-3. But it wasn't over and the Serbian wonder kid Marjanovic pushed the ball into space and had a deadly finish to equalise in the 88th minute. We scored 4 in the other Champions League game this month against Besiktas, but we also kept the clean sheet. Unfortunately, our league form wasn't great with 2 losses and a bad loss at that against Leverkusen, a draw to Hoffenheim and our only win against Wolfsburg. It was our 2 star players again who provided the goals and it seemed like they are kind of carrying us at the minute. Marjanovic has been exceptional and Vitor Roque just seems to have adapted really well to that Teremoffi position and was a great replacement for half of the price. He even got the only goal of the game against Sporting in the Champions League, which remarkably sits us in the top 8 with 2 games to play. December in the league seen us draw 0-0 to Augsburg, defeat Mainz 2-1 with goals from Koita and Diamonde, and comfortably walk past Greuther Fürth 3-0 with 2 goals from Marjanovic. January and we can finally bring in a replacement midfielder in Christian Aslani for 17 million. A quality midfielder who's very composed on the ball and likes to dictate the tempo. My scouts also found this guy who had a release clause for £1.4 million. But the biggest bargain was yet to come. Guess who was on the transfer list? None other than Youssoufa Moukoko at Dortmund for £5 million. There was no way I could miss out on that. I know he hasn't played much, so his development has been stalled, but he's still only 23 and we can definitely use him. I even created a tactic to use 3 strikers to fit them all in for the first game against Werder Bremen. And in that game we won 4-2 with Moukoko scoring our 4th, using his pace to mark the first goal in his Union Berlin career. And he just kept scoring. He scored the opening goal in the cup win against Mainz in off the post. And he volleyed in the opener against Cologne. They did equalise after, but the 3 points was won emphatically when Uwe Jan hit this.
Oh my god!
By the way, Cologne's keeper is just 20 years old and is probably one of the best in the world. I did try and sign him when they did, but he was at Hertha Berlin, so he wasn't interested in joining forces with us. And after reverting back to the 4-4-2 for this massive away win against Porto, Moukoko was back scoring in the frost against Frankfurt, where Siebatcheu was banging in a hat-trick and an assist. And although those lads are scoring majority of the goals, it's Marjanovic for me who has been destroying teams with his quality. We currently sit in 4th, but have played a game more than the team on the same points around us, and with 1 Champions League game we could skip the playoff round here and go straight to the round of 16 with a good result against Spurs. But unfortunately, Richarlison gave Spurs the lead on the 2nd minute. However, unfortunately for my Spurs supporting dad, Jordan Siebatcheu scored from a back post cross. And Marjanovic smashed in another fantastic free kick and they gifted us a 3rd to secure the win with terrible defending from Ampadu.
Oh, you're joking.
Finishing 7th with that record is amazing and I could not be prouder. Although that went out the window when we got smashed up by Stuttgart 6-2 in the next match. Thankfully though, we beat our bogey team Dusseldorf next in a hat-trick for young Youssoufa Moukoko. What a start this man is having in the red and white stripes of Berlin. Another 3 goals and a man of the match performance, taking his goal tally to 7 in 5 games. And the next 2 games is only Bayern Munich and Dortmund in the cup. So imagine the smile on my face when Yusufa Moukoko was played through and finished in the 3rd minute of the match. It wasn't just my smile that was growing either when Narania cut it back and Moukoko doubled our lead. And if you think I meant anything other than the scoreline doubling, then you need to get your mind out of the gutter. Unfortunately, right after halftime, Serge Gnabry pulled one back in Munich. And then to crush our hearts, they scored a second, and the game finished on a Desmond Tutu. We were also knocked out the DFB Pokal, but at least Yusufa Moukoko scored against his old club. And we found out that once again it's Newcastle who was our opponents in Europe. The away leg was lost 1-0 and Joe Willock scored deep into the second half. And our journey in the Champions League came to an abrupt end when we could only draw the second leg 1-1. So now it's just about qualifying for the Champions League next season by finishing in the top 4. So this win against Hamburg was crucial with Yusufa Moukoko scoring the only goal. But even better when Vitor Roque put us ahead just after 3 minutes against Dortmund. It didn't take long for them to score themselves though, or even longer for Dalot to put them ahead. But that man Marjanovic pulled it back to 2-2, and it was the £1.4 million signing Morek who bagged the winner against top of the league Dortmund. And we followed that up with a 2-1 win against Leipzig when Jordan Siebatcheu scored the winner in the 95th minute. We then drew against Leverkusen and lost 2-1 to Hoffenheim and Gladbach. And we then ended the month with a win over Wolfsburg in the 92nd minute winner from Yusufa Moukoko. And with 3 games to go, we are just 4 points behind Leipzig in 4th. We kept the pressure on when we beat Mainz 1-0 through Marjanovic. And Leipzig lost 2-0 to Dusseldorf, putting us just 1 point behind. And while we were beating already relegated Greuther Fürth, Leipzig and Freiburg were losing to Dortmund and Bayern. So on the final day, we were going into the game in the Champions League spots, but could drop all the way out of all of the European spots completely down in 8th place. Not only that, but our game also played a big part in the relegation scrap, as our opponents Augsburg could go down if Frankfurt won against Wolfsburg with a high enough goal difference and we beat them. It was our day to shine when we prevailed against Augsburg 3-1 with goals coming from 2 January signings Aslani and Yusufa Moukoko, finished off by Abdi who picked up the 3rd. We know we were guaranteeing ourselves Champions League football. Or so we thought. Now I'm just kidding, we actually finished in 3rd place on goal difference. And speaking of goal difference, Augsburg survived only by 2 goals themselves, but it was once again another Bayern Munich league win. This is really depressing. Although Marjanovic saying he wants to move clubs to be with better players is even more depressing. Luckily though, he does have 4 years left on his contract and a release clause of 96 million. If the next episode is out, you can click it on the screen to watch right now. If not, we know we have £24 million to spend next year, and that sucks. Our first season in the Champions League went rather well, to be honest. We finished in the top 8 of the new group stage, meaning we actually skipped the playoff round.
Oh, let's go! That's class!
But then Newcastle knocked us out of the round of 16. However, we did qualify for the Champions League again next year.
Get in!
Once again, I upgraded my training facilities. And I asked for more coaches, which the board did accept. Because of our lousy transfer budget, we only welcomed in 2 new players. The first is Ferran Okana from Atletico, a player who can feature up front or on the right hand side, and I decided to pick him up to use him as more of a rotational option. He is good, but he doesn't improve our starting 11. The second player, however, I had to bring in Elia Capriel. He is a phenomenal goalkeeper who instantly becomes our number 1 while weakening Bayer Leverkusen, and he only costs us £9 million because of that clause that we are in the Champions League. We smashed through our round 1 in the Cup 7-0, and we also have started using a new shape. And here in the first match of the Bundesliga against Dortmund, we are going to give it the biggest test. It is a 4-3-3, but Yusufa Moukoko is a pressing forward with 2 inside forwards either side of him, all on support roles with Marjanovic on an attacking Mezzala role. And I'll bet you'll all be down in the comments saying, Luke, leave us a link for this tactic, right? Oh, well, maybe not. To be fair to us though, the first was just an unlucky mix-up as Luca Netz caught a sweet shot. The second, off of a throw-in, was just an unreal strike from their midfielder. And when Nicolas Soulé, of all people, is hitting this into the top corner, you know your luck is out. The fourth, granted, was just well worked. Once again, we are given a difficult draw in the DFB Pokal. It's been far too long without you. On to the next game in the league versus Hamburg, and Moukoko gets us underway in the Bundesliga finally. Second half, and Cancellieri's work rate paid off when he secured the win with a second. We were unlucky not to come away with all 3 points when we faced Wolfsburg. With the transfer window closing, we then had a big injury to our starting left back Aranda. But with no time or money left, we just had to accept it, and overall had a very boring transfer window. But let's have a quick update on some of our players. Marjanovic stayed, thankfully, although Bayern Munich are sniffing around him, and Cancellieri's value went through the roof recently, and some interest was shown during the window by Leipzig, but he's still here for now. This could also be a breakout year for Morek, who I think could be great in the defensive midfielder role we are using in our 4-3-3. I've been implementing Vitor Roque as an inside forward on the left, which might slow down his goals and assists, but could be better for the overall team. But all my praise is going to Moukoko at the minute. Even though he's scoring loads and playing well, every week he is putting in the best performances in training. Our Champions League games are very even this year, with maybe a tricky end, but I think we can get a good account of ourselves in the competition. But the board expectation is to stay in the Champions League. They have us qualifying in this competition as a strict requirement for this season. In September, we also have the Berlin Derby to look forward to as well. After winning our league fixture comfortably, it was a trip to Italy where Juventus awaited us, although we did pull a goal back to make it 1-1 through Diamonde. Juve then flexed their strength and opened up a healthy lead early in the second half, and we ended up losing the opening game of the Champions League season 4-1. Dusseldorf has always been a bogey team for us during this series, but it was Moukoko who I had to thank for making sure we weren't on the end of another loss when he scored yet another hat-trick. The guy was fantastic, always trying to break the lines of the defense using his pace, and his finishing was lethal. And before you know it, it was Derby Day. And it was Omoragic who scored the first. Then he got the second. Vitor Roque picked up the third. Ivanovic then got a fourth from another free kick before Hertha grabbed a consolation goal in injury time. Although Vitor Roque put us down to 10 men with the most outrageous challenge ever, he did receive a straight red card and also a round of applause from myself and the coaching staff. Up the Berlin. F you Hertha Berlin.
If I speak, I am in big trouble.
We ended the month with a 2-1 win against Lugano, which doesn't look good on paper, but we did have 28 shots. We were just shooting like stormtroopers. And then we lost to Bayer Leverkusen. The 13 points we have accumulated so far puts us just outside the top 6 as we move into October. We were treated to yet another Moukoko hat-trick against Werder Bremen in a 6-1 victory, which was the perfect way to bounce back after a bad result. And we are on fire as we go to Amsterdam and defeat Ajax 3-1. After Marjanovic scored the only goal of the game with a fantastic strike against Augsburg. Our little mini winning streak came to an end in the second round of the Cup. We also held Bayern to a 0-0 draw though. Moukoko has bagged 13 goals so far in 15 games, but we are once again picking up injuries and long-term injuries again with our attacking threats on the wing. However, that did not slow us down at all. We beat Olympiacos 2-0. Then Moukoko scored both goals in the away game against Leipzig. Diamonde scored 2 from the left-hand side in Vitor Roque's absence in a 3-0 win against Mainz. And with one more Champions League win and another 2 wins in the Bundesliga, our perfect month of November has done wonders for us, as we currently sit in second, only in goal difference to Dortmund after 14 games, and 4th in the Champions League phase. Our winning run was finally ended against Gladbach when former target Satriano equalised within 10 minutes of Moukoko's opener. Can we chalk up another hat-trick for Mr. Moukoko, please, because he absolutely destroyed Besiktas to the point where his third goal, the Besiktas midfielders are actually passing the ball to him. He then scored the only goal against Stuttgart, but then he took a rest against Bayer Leverkusen. Those results did see Dortmund create a bit of a gap, but also saw us level at the top with PSG in the Champions League phase. And remember, we only spent £20 million this summer. In January, we say goodbye to a legend of the series, Jordan Sierbatche. Good lord, that guy was decent at heading. We also say goodbye to our now backup goalkeeper, Kovacevic. A bargain signing, really, that's no longer needed at the club thanks to Caprillo's arrival. And finally, Laszlo Farkas has his release clause activated by Cologne and has also left the club. But there has been some new arrivals. Austrian defender Jasic. He's the perfect inverted wingback, left-footed right back from Salzburg, and we brought him in for 17 million. We also paid £1 million for the Slovakian striker Janasic, who will help out in the attacking forefront in the youth academy as he's only 18, but he does look fantastic. In January, we beat HSV and Darmstadt. We also lost to Dortmund and Wolfsburg and Barcelona and Arsenal. Unfortunately, that meant we dropped out of the top 8 and had to play a playoff, where we were drawn against Olympic Lyon. And in the first leg, we took the advantage when Moukoko turned provider for Cancellieri. But it's the Berlin derby time, and a win puts us level with Dortmund and keeps Hertha firmly in the relegation zone. However, with both Tyler Adams and Vitor Roque suspended, we do have to play a rotated team. And remember how we applauded the red card in the early Berlin derby that happened this season? Well, that was in the last minute, and Victor Nelson felt left out, and he decided to do it on the 30th minute. And that was at 0-0 in the away leg. Fortunately though, Cancellieri still gave us the lead, and then Moukoko doubled it just after half-time. A corner led to Ivanovic making it 3, and Moukoko scored a free kick to make it 4-0.
Come on, man. That's too easy.
We carried on that momentum and put us into the round of 16 in the Champions League. And then into a 2-1 win over Bayern Munich, who did equalise in the second half through Gnabry and give us a bit of a scare using his pace, but it was our Serbian maestro who bagged the winner against the club who have been scouting him all season.
Unlucky.
We strolled past Bayer Leverkusen and went into the Champions League tie against Freiburg. Well, fair play to them reaching this point. We win the first leg 1-0. What a month February was, by the way. March began with our second leg where we breezed past Freiburg into the quarterfinals of the Champions League, where amongst Europe's elite, we have Manchester United waiting for us.
I will love it if we beat them. Love it.
After a loss to Augsburg and a win to Werder Bremen, we sit in third place with a game in hand, which will only put us 3 points behind Bayern Munich in first. But it's tight up there with 5th place Wolfsburg only a point behind us. However, this is where it all tailed off, because Moukoko got an injury for the rest of the season.
You're having a laugh! You're having a laugh!
Some good news though, I guess, as Morek won top spot in the Next Gen Award, which I was actually quite shocked to see. We even had 4 players in the top 50, and 2 of them have come through our youth academy. Hey, I don't really rate them a lot at all, but I don't really do the voting, so I'll take it. We hung on for a draw against Leipzig after they were awarded a second-half penalty to equalise. And the only win of the month came from this 5-3 win against Freiburg with a Diamonde hat-trick. I haven't mentioned him much this season, but he's still here and he's playing a big part. And the other 3 games, well, I'd rather just not talk about it.
My eyes are bleached.
Over to the Champions League quarter-finals, and United took the lead when Antony found Bruno Fernandes. We equalised 2 minutes later at Old Trafford through our magician Marjanovic, but this is where United showed their experience in this tournament over many decades and scored a second and a third. We did pop up with a second ourselves though through Sekou Koita and probably should have shut up shop for the second leg, but we ended up conceding the 4th from Diaby. And our Champions League run was ended when we couldn't fight back against United in the second leg, with Rashford scoring 4. Just 2 games to go in the league, and although the title race is clearly over, we are still in control over the top 4 spots. And a match against third place Cologne brought back the spirit in the club, and Vitor Roque scored in 3 minutes from Marjanovic's through ball. And the lead was doubled and the game was won when Vitor Roque was tackled and the ball fell to Marjanovic, who scored himself. And the final match we confirmed, Champions League football with a 2-0 away win against Stuttgart with goals from Marjanovic and Cancellieri. So once again, we finish in 3rd place and only 10 points behind Bayern Munich, who, no surprise, are champions again. Hilariously though, it's a goodbye to Hertha Berlin for another season, who are relegated with only 16 points. But next season we have £30 million to spend. It's still not a lot. And I just can't help but wonder what would have happened if Youssoufa Moukoko didn't get injured. Well, hopefully we can find out next season. Make sure you smash a like and make sure you're subscribed. And if it is out, I'll pop it up on screen. I'll see you soon. We finished in a record high 2nd place, while also lifting the DFB Pokal.
You can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious.
But seriously, we really need to stop Bayern Munich now. Something we came so close to doing in the Super Cup, only losing on penalties. I was a bit disappointed to be rejected when asking to expand the stadium, because somebody pointed out to me in the comments that we were only getting 3,600 attended in our Champions League matches. I didn't even realise. And that's because UEFA's ruling says terracing is not permitted in stadiums. And I believe our stadium has only got 1 stand with seats and the rest are terraced. And I guess that stand only has 3,600 seats. Meaning in the knockouts we are having to play our home games at Hertha's stadium. And I don't know why they rejected it when we have £130 million sat in the bank. Anyway, we get started with some inquiries about our players. Here is another one for Marjanovic, and another one for Moukoko. Marjanovic was easy to avoid as he wanted to sign a new contract and stay with us, and we happily accepted that. And my thinking was to get the release clause out of his contract and extend, and I wasn't too worried about the wage, and I was correct in thinking that. We got a deal done rather easily. And although Moukoko never really kicked off, things did escalate from just the inquiry. Starting off with a huge £143 million offer from Real Madrid, which I rejected. So they came back with £173 million. I rejected that also.
Guys, relax. Relax!
It's actually under his value, and there's no way I can replace a player that's so vital to us. Just a reminder, we paid £5 million for this monster as well. I did, however, sell Seiko Koita to Freiburg for £3.5 million, but that is because I had a plan in this young Brazilian. But first off, our first signing of the window was Jeremy Frimpong, £18 million from our rivals as well, and I think that's a really good bargain, picking him up for only £18 million from Leipzig, and he's going to be a starting left back for us. Yes, his main position is right back, but we are using inverted wing backs, and he is perfect for that role. But Vinicius, let's take a look at him. £9.75 million from Atletico Mineiro. What a player we have on our hands. Though he is 22, so I would expect somewhat of a better development at this point, but he is still really good as a backup striker. I need to start training him in some of his mental attributes like anticipation, composure, and off the ball, but he has the physicals, he has decent technicals, and that determination. Oh yes, and he's incredible at training, which tells me he has very good professionalism. And it only took us 5 minutes before Frimpong chipped the ball to Vinicius to score on his debut in an 8-0 cup win. Our first game of the league campaign was against Dortmund. In a fixture we usually struggle with in the past, I think this match showed me how far we have developed as a team, and we completely destroyed Dortmund 4-0 with 4 different goal scorers from all positions across the pitch, and ending with Moukoko getting on the score sheet in the 94th minute. We then sold 2 French players in Mikkel Brent for £11 million and Hugo Ekitike for almost triple what we paid for him, and he flopped for us and only scored 2 goals last year. And I know I shouldn't spend all of the money on one player, but
We're gonna do it anyway!
From Porto, this time we have 19-year-old Honduran international Oscar Ramirez, who we paid a £25 million release clause for. And to be honest, I think he could easily be our starting defensive midfielder or even centre-back if we play a team we expect to see a lot of the ball against. Back to the pitch though, and Moukoko scored the only goal of the game against Werder Bremen, before Mainz felt the wrath of Marjanovic in a 4-1 win. A free kick, followed off by kick-off with the most outrageous goal I think I've ever seen, where he sits down the goalkeeper and walks the ball into the net. He then went on to score a hat-trick in the game with the final goal in an amazing individual performance. I don't know whether the seeding system for the Champions League is broke, but we face Chelsea, Manchester United, and PSG yet again in the Champions League. September started with an away win against HSV. Oscar Ramirez even scored his first goal in a 3-2 win against Galatasaray in front of 3,617 people. And with Hertha Berlin once again getting promoted, it's derby day and they take the lead. Not for long though, as Moukoko equalises 7 minutes later. Diomande is there to tap in a safe shot, and Asllani makes it 3-1 Union Berlin. But Hertha kept fighting and found a second to keep us on our toes. We finally broke them down again when Morek's pass found Kaiki to make it 4-2, and right at the end, Moukoko got his second of the game to give us a 5-2 win.
Get in!
We then lost to Freiburg.
Cheers, Jeff.
And then we lost to Inter Milan. We sat in second, but it wasn't Bayern Munich ahead of us, it was Stuttgart, who are currently unbeaten in the Bundesliga. In October, we lost another league match to Cologne, but we did pick up wins against Dusseldorf 1-0 and Schalke 4-0. Vitor Roque scored a tremendous hat-trick against Dresden in the cup. We lost to Chelsea, however, in the Champions League right after. Stuttgart lost 2 games through this, and we overtook them at the top of the Bundesliga, with Bayern down in 7th place, losing 4 matches. And that's who we play next. Hertha, on the other hand, they only have 1 point from 9 games. over to the Allianz Arena in Munich, and Bayern Munich take the lead through De Ligt. They doubled their lead when Natai Nugent scored a second right before half-time. From a corner, new signing Vinicius pulled one back, tapping in at the back post. And then Youssoufa Moukoko equalised with just minutes remaining. But that comeback was too good to be true, and Vendo ran down in the 93rd minute to snatch the winner. Fear not, as this was our only bad result in the month, where we picked up wins against Wolfsburg, Stuttgart and Bielefeld, as well as beating Manchester United in the Champions League and drawing to Olympiacos. Still top of the league, and Bayern are still in 7th place. In Moukoko's absence, it was Vinicius who stepped up, scoring a hat-trick against Frankfurt in a 3-1 victory. And you'd actually think it was Moukoko on the pitch. That's how good Vinicius looked on this day. Our other win this month was against now mid-table RB Leipzig 3-1 after they took the lead after 4 minutes. Gladbach equalised from the spot in the 92nd minute though to take 2 points off of us, while Leverkusen took all 3. And before you know it, it's January, and I've been training Morek as a backup left back. He's quite good at it too. In our first match of the year, we defeated Borussia Dortmund 1-0, and then we progressed through the cup against Frankfurt, picking up our form just in time for the Berlin derby. We absolutely destroyed them 7-3, and Youssoufa Moukoko scored a hat-trick and won man of the match, scoring all 3 of his goals between the 19th and the 39th minute, keeping them bottom and putting us top of the Bundesliga. Although conceding 2 stoppage time goals and scoring a 96th minute goal ourselves in this 3-3 draw won't help our title challenge. We also scrapped through the Champions League phase with 2 wins in January against Feyenoord and Rennes. And we were drawn against Simeone's Atletico Madrid, where we progressed through by beating them 4-2 on aggregate thanks to this 3-1 win at home with 3 different goal scorers and making Simeone cry. Unlucky. We kept pushing on in the league with a great win against HSV, but another late goal cost us the win after being 2-0 up against Mainz, followed by a mad 4-0 win against Freiburg, who, remember, have recently been in the top 3 the last couple of seasons. A 94th minute penalty secured all 3 points against Dusseldorf and now puts us back at the top above Bayern Munich. It's PSG awaiting us though in the Champions League, and Mainz in the quarterfinals of the DFB Pokal, which is what we played next, and once again got the better of Mainz, winning 3-1 and putting ourselves into the semi-final, giving us the chance to retain our cup win from last year. But in the Champions League, however, it wasn't to be, and we bow out once again in the round of 16 to a very good PSG side. But with 2 more wins in the league, it was Bayern Munich who we faced up next. And from the very first goalkeeping mistake, I knew it wasn't going to be our day, and even though we did score an equaliser from a corner, we still got absolutely battered. They were nestling goals into the corner from range, having the best opportunities and giving us nothing. It really surprised me how bad we had played, and we lost 5-1, putting them back at the top at the beginning of April by 2 points. It was an extra time free kick from Diamonde which seen us defeat Stuttgart 3-2 and send us into the DFB Pokal final, where a clash against Borussia Dortmund awaits after they beat Bayern Munich 2-1. We also faced Stuttgart in the league and couldn't even beat them in 90 minutes then either. And we even lost 1-0 to Frankfurt. Moukoko got himself a hat-trick against Cologne, and we also beat Wolfsburg 4-0 at home in our other 2 Bundesliga games. But Bayern Munich also dropped points in the league, and the gap stayed the same. A fantastic win against Gladbach put us top, but only for a day, as Bayern Munich defeated HSV 5-0 on the Sunday. We really need them to drop some points, but with only 2 games left to play, kinda looks impossible. And they had 2 fairly easy fixtures before facing United in the Champions League final. We continued keeping ourselves in with a chance by beating Leipzig 2-0 away in the pouring rain with goals from Moukoko and Ivanovic. But the miracle happened in Bielefeld as Bayern Munich showed up, not expecting this hard of a match, and Arminia put themselves 2-0 up. Munich could only pull 1 goal back, and that is exactly the result that we needed. So with 1 game to go, it's in our hands. We could finally stop the Bayern Munich dominance. And in the final fixture, Bayern Munich took the lead early in their match through De Ligt's Thunderbastard, and they doubled it 2 minutes later through Vinny Jr., putting them back top of the table again with our match still goalless. But just as news hit our stadium of Bayern Munich second, Marjanovic was put through and had the audacity to chip the goalkeeper. And we held on. And for the first time in 19 years, a new team have won the Bundesliga. And for the first time in Bundesliga history, it's Union Berlin. Wait. We still have the DFB Pokal final, where Frimpong and Aslani are both missing through suspension and injury, but it's still an incredibly strong lineup. But it only took one Youssoufa Moukoko goal to separate the two sides. In a game where all of our starting 11 played incredibly well and we had 21 shots to their 8, one goal was the difference. A truly fantastic season, winning the double, and can only be topped off by that Champions League trophy we still have to win, with just short of £50 million to upgrade the team in the summer. Next episode of It's Out will be up on the screen. We finally won the Bundesliga, and we stopped the Bayern Munich dominance as well. These bunch of legends did it. But there's still one job left to do, to lift the Champions League.
I'm not feeling the pressure, no. You cannot put pressure on me. No chance.
And once again in pre-season, more offers came in for our best players. Man City was so persistent with the biz for Vitor Roque that he began skipping training and becoming a bit of a problem. And so I accepted a bid, and he played his last game for us against Bayern in the Super Cup, a game in which Bayern Munich won 1-0 from Musiala, and we said goodbye to Vitor Roque for £138 million. So I went out and I strengthened the starting 11, starting with this left-sided centre-back Gaston Avila, who I think is actually better than Esteve. He's really good on the ball and has fantastic mentals. We picked him up for Real Madrid for £46 million. Now, to replace Vitor Roque, I have a plan. First off, we signed Garnacho from Espanyol for his release clause of £27 million. And he can rotate with Mohamed Diamonde, who has been very much a rotational player for us, but can play on the left naturally and done so well in the past. Finally, we signed arguably the best goalkeeper on the game and born in Berlin, Novak. Only 23 years of age. We paid £38 million from Cologne, who, remember, bought him as an 18-year-old from our rivals, Hertha. What's even funnier is that he rejected us when he moved to Cologne because he didn't want to play for Hertha's rivals. Now here he is. In the opening round of the DFB Pokal, we won 11-0 with Moukoko scoring 8. One thing we have tweaked is Mokoko's role from a pressing forward on support to an advanced forward, and I think it paid off. And in the opening game of the season, it was a comfortable win against Dusseldorf, with both fullbacks playing a huge part, scoring a goal each and assisting Moukoko with the third. Frimpong got a second goal in the win against Mainz too. We followed that win against newly promoted Schalke 3-0 with Marjanovic picking up 2 goals, who once again has developed even better than he has last time we looked at him. And we are playing the same teams again in the Champions League, starting with Manchester United. And at Old Trafford, we came from behind twice, scoring the equaliser from Vinicius with a 90th minute goal. Late goals was kind of our thing in September, as Vinicius pulled us level and Diamonde scored an 89th minute winner against Cologne after being 3-1 down until the 77th minute. It's a draw to Gladbach and a 3-0 win against Darmstadt, with Juventus up next. And currently we are sitting top of the league, but Juventus beat us 1-0. Back to winning ways in the league as we beat Wolfsburg 2-0 at their brand new stadium, the Eden Dzeko Park.
Ooh, how convenient.
Garnacho got his first goal for us as we go back-to-back with 3-1 wins in the Bundesliga, either side of our 1-1 draw with Lille in the Champions League, not putting us in the greatest position after 3 games during the league phase.
Guys, relax. Relax!
It took until extra time before we scored the winner in the second round of the Cup. And we suffered our first league defeat against Freiburg in November, but picked up wins against Frankfurt, Hanover and Borussia Dortmund, where we also lose Garnacho for 2 months with a broken wrist just as he was hitting form. He'd been playing well and picking up goals just like this in a 4-1 win to Shakhtar, where Moukoko also bagged a hat-trick. Our other Champions League match was against Inter Milan.
I will love it if we beat them. Love it.
We started off scoring from a kick-off with the big Slovenian Murek Marjanovic, then doubled our league from the spot. Second half, and with Tyler Adams receiving a straight red, Inter came at us but could only muster the 1 goal, and we take all 3 points. We did not even concede a goal in our first 4 matches of December.
Oh, let's go. That's class.
Unfortunately, we didn't even score against Leipzig either. But but we did score 3 against Werder Bremen. And Moukoko scored 2 against Porto in the next match of the Champions League, as well as another against Bayern Munich. We've recovered well in the Champions League, but still outside of the automatic qualification positions. But despite destroying 2 teams 5-0 and 8-0 in January, we finished outside of the top 8 qualification places on the same points, even though our goal difference was better. It says the sorting rules is results between teams and then goal difference. But we didn't even play Dortmund, Bayern Munich or Chelsea, and yet we're all still below them.
Dunno. I think that's a bit dodgy, mate.
Outside of the Champions League, it was a busy but very good January, ending with a 7-2 win against Cologne, with Moukoko scoring 5 goals in total. In the Champions League knockout playoff, it was Portuguese side Benfica who we came up against, and it was an incredible first half for us as we ended up going 3-0 up before Benfica finally scored on the 43rd minute. It looked like we were going to throw away this great first leg advantage when they scored a second to make it 3-2, but Marjanovic went on and scored a 4th. We got through to the round of 16 after a second leg result of 1-1. Another fantastic performance against Dortmund now, with Diomande scoring a beauty in the second half, before Aslani rounded off the 2-0 away win. After 2 draws and a 6-0 win in the Bundesliga, Bayern Munich started to peel away from us at the top, but our focus started to shift to the Inter Milan tie in the Champions League. A team we've already beat this season, remember, so winning again might be quite tricky.
We're gonna do it anyway.
First off, Garnacho is back on form, getting 3 assists in a 4-0 win in the quarter-final of the DFB Pokal.
Come on, man. That's too easy.
Inter Milan fought around a little bit too much at the back, and we eventually punished them with their bad clearance when Kaiki smashed in a rocket. And like deja vu, the same in the second half when Diamande's cross was met by Morik to win the first leg 2-0. And our 2-goal advantage from the first leg was enough to carry us through to the quarterfinals 4-3 on aggregate, where it's PSG who awaits us. Another bad injury for Garnacho as he sprains his knee ligaments in a 4-2 win against Freiburg, meaning he misses the quarterfinals against PSG when Moukoko gives us a 1-0 lead. Second half, and it's tight until the 92nd minute winner when Vinicius once again gives us a 2-goal advantage. Second leg is soon to be followed by a league match against Leipzig and a semi-final in the DFB Pokal. Diamande's first minute goal was crucial, yes, but Novak in goal faced 14 shots and saved 12, getting an 8 rating and putting us further in the Champions League than we've ever been, knocking out PSG, with the other Portuguese juggernaut waiting for us in the semi-final. Speaking of semi-finals, we conceded first against Cologne, but a Youssoufa Moukoko goal either side of half-time put us back in the driving seat, and he also got involved in the third when he set up Aslani. 3 DFB Pokal finals in a row, and Freiburg this time will try to prevent us from winning the sexiest trophy on the planet. Porto in the semi-final, and Oscar Ramirez scores within 3 minutes against his old club. And it's our star man Moukoko who has played through to put us 2-0 up going into our home second leg. Lads, we are 1 game away from a Champions League final. Our league form has been doing great, only drawing 1 game since the loss to Schalke the month before. But with Bayern up next, they were simply uncatchable this season and have already been crowned champions. We drew against them anyway. Beto made it 2-1 on aggregate against Porto, and we began to panic, until we eventually gathered our composure, and after Garnacho's shot was blocked, he found Moukoko to crush Porto's spirit and send Union Berlin into the Champions League final. And it's Erik ten Hag's United who will be there to meet us, and guess where? None other than Hertha Berlin Stadium. But before we get to that, we have another final to contest with first against Freiburg. A difficult game, but we have our best 11 available and up for the task. It wasn't until the 45th minute when Milan Marjanovic opened up the scoring for us, and our defense were just too good on the day. Freiburg simply couldn't break them down, and Moukoko helped us to 3 DFB Pokals in a row, a 3-peat and a 4th DFB Pokal for Union Berlin. And it all comes down to this then. Very similar lineup, just a few changes at the back with Frimpong moving to the left and Jasic coming back in for Esteve. Garnacho starts against his former club, and a lot of familiar names in Ten Hag's side with Sancho and Rashford being dangerous threats. Here we go then, 10 seasons in the making. It's a Berlin side lining up in the 4-3-3 we've seen so much success from in recent seasons, against a Manchester United side lining up in its traditional 4-2-3-1 with Rashford leading the line and Sancho, Sarmaz Hadzic and Zakarian in behind. Goretzka and Kenneth Taylor in the holding midfield positions, with a backline from left to right of Bastida, Viti, Todibo and Barry Jones, with Onana in goal. And as the players enter the field, we have Erik ten Hag to the right and myself to the left, here at the Olympiastadion in Berlin, Germany, home of Union's main rivals Hertha and the national stadium of Germany. It's Union Berlin versus Manchester United. And 29 minutes on the clock, and with a bit of possession, a long ball by Ryder, and Moukoko is in, and Moukoko scores the first goal of this Champions League final. Just a minute later, and it's a corner flicked on, and Garnacho is there to tap it in and make it 2-0 Union Berlin. Another break down the left, and Garnacho is played in again and makes it 3. With all his injuries this season, it's an incredible comeback story. Approaching half-time, and the pressure is still being applied by Garnacho, who switches to play. Marjanovic heads it down, and Moukoko smashes in a 4th. Second half, and Kaiki is played down the right and he's been brought down, and that could be a penalty, and this is getting worse for Manchester United. It could be a chance for a player to get a hat-trick, and it goes to VAR, but no penalty is given. But time is running out, and there we have it. Union Berlin are the champions of Europe from the struggling early years, with Jordan Siebatcheu, Thorsby, Uvejan, Terem Moffi, Cancellieri to the recent years of Tyler Adams, Marjanovic, Diamonde, Morik, and of course Moukoko. What a team, what a series. Thank you very much for watching Union Berlin to the Champions League. Up next is Youth to Gold.